Think all narcissists are arrogant? Think again. There's another, more subtle type of narcissism that you probably haven't even considered. Let's break it down and understand the different types of narcissism and what might cause it. First, what is narcissism? It's a personality trait that involves an inflated sense of self-importance and a deep need for admiration. But here's where it gets tricky. There's a difference between having narcissistic traits and being diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD. People with narcissistic traits might show signs of arrogance, self-focus, or a lack of empathy, but they don't necessarily meet the criteria for a full-blown disorder. NPD, on the other hand, is more severe. It's a mental health condition that affects relationships, work, and overall functioning. So it's important to understand that just because someone shows narcissistic behaviors, it doesn't automatically mean they have narcissistic personality disorder. Now, where does narcissism come from? Studies suggest that genetics can play a role. Certain personality traits can be inherited, but environmental factors are just as important. For example, being raised by overly critical parents or even parents who spoil their kids can both contribute to narcissistic traits. Interestingly, childhood trauma, like neglect or inconsistent parenting, can also lead someone to develop self-obsessed behaviors as a defense mechanism. This is a coping mechanism where people create a version of themselves that constantly seeks attention and validation. But in the end, narcissism is shaped by both our genetics and the environment we grow up in, including our life experiences. Here's where things get interesting. There are actually two main types of narcissism: grandiose and vulnerable. Grandiose narcissism is what most people think of when they hear the word narcissist. These are the people who seem overly confident, show off, and act like they're superior to everyone else. They crave attention and admiration, and they might be manipulative. But then there's vulnerable narcissism, which is more subtle and often harder to spot. These people may seem shy, sensitive, or insecure on the surface. However, deep down, they also have a strong sense of entitlement and a need for validation. They may feel like they're not getting the recognition they deserve and can easily become defensive or resentful if they feel criticized. You might see this in someone who constantly plays the victim or seeks reassurance in subtle ways. Have you ever known a person for a long time and after some months or even years, that person seems to have changed unrecognizably? Possibly vulnerable narcissism traits started showing more clearly. That's one of the reasons why some relationships look perfect, almost too good to be true, but after some time it all breaks apart. Understanding the difference between these two types is key because it shows that narcissism can show up in different ways, some more obvious than others. So the next time you think of a narcissist, remember, it's not always about being loud or arrogant. There's a more vulnerable side to narcissism that can be just as harmful. Whether grandiose or vulnerable, narcissism is complex, but understanding these differences helps us recognize it more easily. Thanks for watching, and if you want to learn more about human behavior and relationships, don't forget to subscribe.